And Nora, you also are a buyer of food, and you are committed to buying only organic produce and other organic products. And that hasn't always been easy for you, has it?
No, and I can very much relate to what you're saying, because when I started out, I had to buy whole animals, and each time I bought a beef, which I think I bought every 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I had, I think, like 600 pounds of ground meats. And, you know, I said I will open a groundhog restaurant because I had so much ground meat. But so I can relate to what you're saying. Yeah, I think my supply chain has come full circle. I think when I started out in the 70s, I opened a restaurant in 79, which is now 37 years ago. You know, the world was very different. And it was difficult to find suppliers then. I had to drive in the countryside and find farmers and ask them how they farm, and, you know, convince them that they would sell to me and that they wouldn't use so many pesticides or fungicides. You know, around here, lots of fungicides, unfortunately. And so, hormones or antibiotics. And so that's how I got my products. And word got around that there's this crazy woman in Washington buying from farmers, and so I got more and more farmers that contacted me. But it was very difficult to get them organic. You know, they were natural, they didn't. So it was a difficult time, and also, as you said, we heard before, it's customer driven. You know, customers had no idea what I was trying to do. I mean, the word organic didn't exist. If I would have said, you know, I have an organic restaurant, people would have said, you know, what is this, a biology class, or, you know, what is this? So I tried to invent a title and say additive free. I'm serving additive free food. And so that was difficult to understand too, because people thought I don't do MSG. But so I decided to mark it on my menu, and I had on my menu written in the back of my menu exactly what my philosophy was and what I'm trying to do. And I gave the list of all the farmers that I use, so people could start to learn that it's important to know where their food comes from. So then, you know, the 80s and the 90s, and people became, unfortunately, two things happened. People became unhealthy, and more people sort of started to come to the restaurant because they had health issues or dietary issues, lots of allergies and cancer and diabetes and, you know, obesity and or cardiovascular problems. And then the other thing that happened is that environmental organizations realized also the impact of food on the environment, so they came to support me. So now what we are now down is now I had all these suppliers and things were doing very well, but now so many other companies, and I'm happy about this, I must say, because, you know, one of the big criticism of organic food is that it's so elitist and that nobody can afford it. And I always say, you know, better to spend your money on food than on a doctor. And so now it's become often difficult to get the amount of products or the products I want, because, you know, there's Walmart, there's Costco, there's Safeway, there's China, all these chains that realize that actually serving organic food, as we heard before, you know, the millennium want healthier food. You know, they now do this. I think organic food is 2% of the agricultural land is farmed organically. Think about it, only 2%. And all these big companies and everybody, you know, grabs onto it. So me, my poor little restaurant, I have only one. I'm sort of pushed aside a little, and I have to fight again to find, you know, certified organic products like I had over 30 years ago. So that's sort of the cycle, but I have to say I'm very happy. I'm very happy that it's come to this point, because organic will become more mainstream, and I think it will benefit everybody.
And so for you, do you think the answer is also perhaps more farmers, more organic farmers?
Definitely.
To fortify your supply?
Yes, definitely. As if you have heard, it's true. there's actually there's a little change I can see, because some of the farms that I go and visit there, it's for them easier and easier to find help in the summer when they need help. You know, a farm from agricultural school, there are more and more younger people that are willing to go back to farming, and many of them, of course, go out of ideological principles because they think that's the correct way of doing it. But you know, unfortunately, some of them are discouraged when they realize how difficult it is to be a farmer and how hard work it is, and how you're dependent on so many things, you know, on the weather and on the customer. Or, you know, sometimes somebody says, okay, I can see it with me. I mean, you know, my farmer says, okay, I can supply with the arugula you ordered, but it's full of flea beetle holes. So, you know, there's always, the poor farmer is very dependent on the environment and the weather.